Jukeboxes had just become popular, really. They'd been around for a while, but they just became popular after the war, because you had the materials again. And RCA had popularized the vinyl single. And then most importantly, because it was for kids, and literally, they invented the portable record player, this little record player that would play singles. For you youngsters out there, a single was a 7-inch vinyl with a big hole in it, a song on each side. This is all new, and this is all happening simultaneously. They invent this thing, which meant, in my house and a lot of houses, the record player was in the middle of the living room, part of the television, a big piece of furniture. It was a huge piece of furniture for those who could afford it. We were middle class. And you had the TV that everybody watched, the one TV in the house. The record player was part of that, Big piece of furniture in the living room. And you had to kind of have your parents' approval of what you were going to play there. If it had never changed from that, I think rock and roll would have never happened, okay? Literally. If it hadn't been for the transistor radio, which you could take in bed under your covers, and the little portable record player that you could take in your room and play whatever you wanted, so you didn't have to hear your mother complaining about Little Richard screaming or whatever, that changed the whole world. So that technology was coming in right at the right time, the single, the jukebox, the record player, rock and roll itself, and again, the teenager being created, okay, because of the leisure time after the war and the economic situation. So all that happened simultaneously, and then Chuck Berry literally institutionalized it, in School Day and Sweet 16 and Sweet Little Rock and Roller and all of those fantastic little teenage epic cinematic, singles. He was the storyteller, okay? Simple as that, He was bringing the story of the teenager to the teenagers, It's like what The Godfather did for the mafia. Sort of instructed them how this whole thing works. He's obviously, he wasn't completely making it up out of his head. He was obviously observing this phenomenon taking place, but he was hip enough to put it into the songs. No one had ever really done that before. Who writes about, as I said, there was no teenagers to write about before that. So no one would have thought to do that. Pop music was basically love songs, Yeah, some involved, of course, young people. I mean, love, romance is pretty much a young thing anyway. But that was it. That was the extent of the lyric, the breadth, the depth of the lyrics up until Chuck Berry was more or less more about, romance, and Chuck just added these details of, added the music thing, which was just a brilliant way of self-promotion, really, saying, drop the coin right into the slot, play that jukebox, babe, because you're playing my records,
In your opinion, was Chuck Berry the father of rock and roll?
No, but he was the king of rock and roll. I think Little Richard, the father and mother, Little Richard opened his mouth and liberation came out, And I think there was something about that, like that sound that the Hindu believe created the world, the Om sound. That was Little Richard for me. But Chuck Berry, as I said, and again, Elvis Presley would absolutely be the one who would popularize rock and roll. But Chuck Berry would be the king in that he had it all. He had the words and the guitar and the show. And again, would institutionalize and popularize this new cultural phenomenon called the teenager, which didn't exist before. And you could almost say Chuck Berry invented the teenager. You know, I mean, he certainly popularized that culture, which no one even noticed if they recognized it at all. You know, what their kids did after school. Who cares? You know? Well, he documented that odd little bit of cultural phenomena and literally made it historically significant. Single-handedly, you know?